Dr. John Klironomos of the Irving K. Barber School of Arts and Sciences was recently named Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada, one of the highest accolades a Canadian academic can achieve. His early fascination with dirt helped steer his research towards the study of fungi. John, welcome to UBC's Next Big Thing. Your research is in the field of plant and soil ecology. So what does that exactly mean and entail?
Plant and soil ecology is a very broad term. It essentially refers to the fact that we study plants in the environment and how they interact with the soil and with all the organisms that live in the soil, because they can have actually quite profound effects on plants, whether they're in agriculture, forestry, or just about anywhere.
So you can study anywhere, whether it's, like you said, forestry. So in the forest, you look at the plants that are there, the soil, and kind of figure out what's going on in the ecology of it?
We do. And in fact, we have projects right now here in the Kelowna area, but we also have projects throughout North America, and actually in all continents.
Really?
Pretty much right now on the ground we have projects going on. And we also bring them into the lab as well, so we can study plants and soil under very artificial, strange environments as well.
It's kind of like the mad scientists in the lab.
That's the best part of it.
Is that the best part? You have a lot of fun with that. You and your research team really focus on fungi. So can you tell us a little bit more about the types of fungi that you're studying? For
sure. The average person, when they think about fungi, they may think of mushrooms, or they may think of mold growing on a fruit, on the countertop or something along those lines. And we study those as well, because they're actually quite relevant in nature. There are largely three groups of fungi that we do work with. One of them is, pathogens, these fungi that attack plants and other organisms. Saprobes, the decomposers, the recyclers, those that any time, whether it's a plant material or any other material that falls to the ground, they're the ones that recycle it and eliminate it. And then the mutualists, those that cooperate with plants. They grow together. And they're partners. They actually exchange resources. It's a very interesting partnership in how they actually do get along to help each other out.
Now, how are we able to find those things out? Like that is a curious comment to me. Is this part of the research that you're doing? You're finding this?
It is. Actually, the first time this was reported, it was approximately about 100 years ago, when someone simply noticed that where certain fungi were growing, plants seemed to be growing better. And then that led to more detailed studies. It was done, it wasn't an active research area back then, but over the last few years, over the last couple of decades really, and especially in the last few years, there's been an explosion of studies focusing on this partnership. And it's incredibly widespread. And we feel that we could take advantage of that partnership, as opposed to, if we really want to have sustainable and productive systems out there.
So what are the most interesting things that you're finding out, or that interest you about, I'm going to say this right, I called it fungi, but you're saying fungi.
Fungi, it's all the same.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah, they're both correct.
Oh, good. Yeah. So what is it that you find most interesting about working with fungi?
So many different things, but I would say one of the things that I find really interesting is, here's a group of organisms that we rarely think about. Largely, we don't think about them because we can't see them that well. They're microscopic, but put some samples of fungi under a microscope, and it's incredible the variety and the morphologies, the forms that you see. It's unbelievable, the art. It's unbelievable how beautiful they are. And yet, if we were so much smaller, and we were able to perceive them, the world would seem so different to us, So I find that really fascinating. And the fact that such tiny little things can have a disproportionate impact on the functioning of our ecosystems. Essentially, I find that really fascinating and quite inspiring.
When you came into the studio earlier, we were kind of making a few, fungi jokes and just talking about playing in dirt and those kinds of things. But there is something fun about it. I mean, when I was a kid, I played in the dirt all the time. I was actually very good at playing in the dirt. And yet there's so much life there. So does it give you a sense of real accomplishment, knowing that, something as simple as researching this dirt can have an impact on how we see the world and plant life.
I do. I feel that it's a very important topic. We just simply forget how much we depend on soil. It is something that in fact, we call it dirt. Right? We call it dirt. I think that has a bit of a negative connotation as to how we respect it as a resource. It's quite satisfying to work in that area and to keep finding out different ways to decipher different stories associated with soil as to how important they are.
Wow, and we're storytellers here, so when you talk about it as a story, that is very, very intriguing. You use two approaches to study fungi and ecology. Can you tell us about those?
One way that we study these is we simply go out into the field and we observe. That's fundamentally one of the most powerful ways to make discoveries, is to take walks in the field and to make observations. And there's an art to making observations. It's more than just walking around and looking. I just find that there are so many things that are happening in front of us. It's quite tough to notice what's really going on because things work at different time scales. Things may be moving very slowly, and so you almost have to kind of get in sync with that environment to start making observations. The difficulty, though, in doing that is that when it comes to fungi, the plant part of it is easy.
Right.
But when it comes to fungi or the part of the plant that's below ground, it's harder because you can't stick your head in the ground and actually make any observations all that easily. So then that brings us to the second approach that we use, and that is we bring materials back into the lab and we deconstruct them, we break them up. We use indirect methods, often involving experiments in the lab or in a greenhouse, in combination with either modern molecular techniques or microscopy to figure out what's going on.
Your research here is, of course, so fascinating, and we appreciate it within the community of UBC, but we're not the only ones that have recognized the work you've done. You've recently been named a Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada. Why don't you talk about what that means to you and what that is?
It's a great privilege, first of all. It's an honor to be named a Fellow of the Society. The Royal Society, it's an old society that gives distinction to researchers and scholars that have made impact in the field. So that's why I feel really honored to be part of that. And I did my PhD with Professor Kendrick at the University of Waterloo, who was also a Fellow of the Royal Society. And I certainly remember feeling very honored being in his lab and getting training in this area to begin with. Yeah, so it feels very special. It's an incredible group of researchers and colleagues across Canada and internationally, and to be part of this academy essentially is a great honor.
I don't even know how many faculty members and researchers we have throughout the UBC community, but it's a large number, and to really be highlighted is a very big honor.
For sure.
Now, that's not the only distinction that and recognition that you've received. Last year you were named the Fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. What does that mean to you and your research?
I feel it's a great honor. The AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, is a society that publishes one of the premier journals in the world in science. The journal is called Science. It's starting to make me feel that some of the work that my group has been doing, and I have to say that it has been a group activity, is getting recognized not only in a Canadian context, but certainly internationally.
What would you say has been one of your greatest finds in this research to date that maybe has helped put you on the map or helped you being recognized for your involvement in research?
My group has published many papers, about 150 papers over the years, but really it's probably just a handful of them that have made the biggest impact, and I would say that's typical of many research groups. And those few papers that have been well received and heavily cited, in the literature, have been those papers that have demonstrated experimentally, by using experiments, these particular fungi, that we can't see all that well, like I mentioned earlier. They allow plants to be quite productive and stable in ecosystems. We have been able to explain a number of phenomena such as how plants may respond to climate change, how systems might be invaded by alien invasive plants, how we may be able to restore ecosystems after systems have been degraded, so for example after mining. There's a number of topics that we've touched on, including in systems such as forestry and agriculture. What we find is that they're so crucial, this partnership is so crucial, these plants really depend on them. And the more we manipulate these systems, the more we manage them, the more fertilizer we add to them, the more pesticides we add to them, the more we break that association between the plants and the fungi. It's these general relationships and patterns that people have noticed in the research.
The part about research that's so important, and you talked about the papers that are read, is that other researchers, people that can take it to that next place, to be able to take that knowledge that you've gained and use it in a way that will change how we do things, our approach to caring for plants, our approach to forestry acts, and our approach to, like you said, even with mining, how do you recoup that land that's been destroyed because of that? So what is your long-term hope for the research that you're doing and the impact you'll have out in the world?
Well, the biggest hope is that it'll lead to more sustainable practices overall. A respect for our natural ecosystems, a respect for systems and the diversity that exists in systems that we don't necessarily see. Fundamentally, it's to understand how these ecosystems work so that when we're making decisions, we can make informed decisions about them. I'd hate to argue that science can always tell individuals or groups what they should do. But certainly what they need to have is the information so that whenever they decide what to do, that they simply understand the consequences. I think that's my ultimate goal.
Well, that's a good goal to have. John, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, and you are a fungi. Oh, sorry.
The pleasure's all mine.
I had to throw that in somewhere. Thanks again.
Thank you.
That wraps it up for this edition of UBC's Next Big Thing. We look forward to seeing you next time.